It's the Wednesday Wisdom Show, and you need to know how to sense truth. If you've been watching the last few episodes, you know that I've been talking about how the internet is a model of holistic, instantaneous interconnection that allows us to confront, to actually experience on a conscious level qualities of nature that used to be hidden from us. That's good and it's bad, and we have to consciously sort out what's right and wrong about this situation because it's been presented to us specifically for that purpose. It's a meaningful, let's say, invention or gift. Now, one of its strengths, of course, is the fact that it models the larger system that we can't possibly comprehend in all its complexity and levels and so on. How life works together as a single impulse, because it's actually the system that we're in. The natural system is actually one creature. So it's constantly in communication, and it exists towards a goal, say, of health, stability, balance, and it's being evolved as a whole. This is what we sense part of in the internet. So a few episodes ago, I talked about the inputs into that system of the internet, which is what do media creators create and how that affects the well-being of the entire system and what needs to be there in the initial stages of something that is going to be shared throughout the body of humanity on an instantaneous basis and will cause reactions instantaneously, and the quality and color of life and our perception of reality will be instantaneously turning on a dime according to the types of intentions that are in the input stage of this model that we have of the scope of our actual scope of our lives, our collective life. Now, the fact is that that manifesto, the ideas of what a creator should do, these are suggestions of how to act according to the law of nature itself so that the effects will be beneficial, but that's not happening, and that's why that manifesto was put together by a bunch of media creators who have, a little bit of perception about the nature of this internet system. It's not happening that way, so we have a problem. What we are experiencing now in general is a complete disconnection from truth. Truth is not a difficult thing to grasp, actually. We just don't understand how to look at it, what to look at, what to check in ourselves in order to understand whether or not something is so. In experiments that happened during the 20th century and also in the 21st century, people who look at the systems in the human body or in the animal body, but it's easiest to measure in humans because of our ability to speak and convey experience, they found that you can put probes and sensors into the human nervous system, into the brain and so on, and it's possible through direct stimulation determined by the scientist, the one putting the stimulation in, to recreate, or let's say create, a reality in the perception of reality of the individual who's being stimulated and measured. That things like sexual response, emotional charges, the sense of time and place are indistinguishable to our cognitive system on an individual basis, whether or not the thing exists in its natural state, that is, when we're in a space with other people, in three-dimensional space, seeing others over time and relating with people. We can't tell the difference between a direct stimulus and one that is in the natural sphere. It's possible to induce even religious experience, connective, awesome stimuli inside of what we think of as our most personal place, the most intimate place that we call ourself. Now, the general nervous system of humanity has become the internet. That's why it is the only global culture and why it's extremely important that we handle it correctly. And again, we're not. This, the mobile phone in particular, is both a stimulus to the direct stimulus to the brain and to the senses, and it also is a probe that measures responses. So it puts in direct stimulus because it replaces the natural order of relating with a model of it, and it can give us impulses and it can measure the impulses coming back and therefore create a reality for us, and we can't tell the difference between the natural reality and the one that's being stimulated for reasons other than the natural law. Now, before you start arguing in your head that, well, if nature made this arise, then therefore it's also natural. Yeah, the thing is that the process of human development is one that moves us from an unconscious involvement with the laws of nature and with our nature and with our experiences of pleasure and knowledge and all of that, to one of complete conscious engagement. So we are being pushed precisely on that place that is our next step of development. And we're now in a no man's land. We cannot tell what the truth is anymore because there's a lot of understanding in general by governments and by people who look at the technical aspects of human nature and cognizance, and it is possible to social engineer, in other words, take over the evolutionary process enough that we can be influenced this way or another. So this is what we have to gain back, because we're being challenged on whether or not this kind of connection that we have reflects the law of nature or not. Actually, this manipulation doesn't reflect the law of nature, because what's actually happening here is that we are being given a lot of stimuli that have they are not altruistic impulses. There's no people who know how to manage the entire system. That's not how the system works. It isn't managed by some individual brain. It is a collective awareness. And what it's doing now is it's showing us where our illness is. Now, you've got to admit that we are in a very strange place now. There is some kind of a problem that we don't understand, and it's causing conflict just about on every level. And our sense of what's so is completely in flux. Hence, fake news, completely new definitions of what is supposed to be organizing us as a society, definitions of things that are natural and biological. There is a kind of they're all breaking down. There is a kind of general chaos. And in the midst of that, we are losing ground. We're losing pleasure. We understand that we're all in this kind of strange twilight zone situation. So we have a common malady here, or at least a common situation, and we're looking for, well, where is the ground of this? What is the primary, ultimate thing that is the problem? Where is it broken? What is it that isn't functioning? Why is this thing so widespread? The beauty of what's happening is that it is not only is it widespread, it's happening everywhere and to everything. So whatever this is pointing to a profound commonality, and yet we're unable to detect where that is, where that common thing is broken. But the important thing is that it's common, because it's happening across all strata of human experience. So with all of that going on, the fact that we are being artificially stimulated and measured, and we are actually volunteering for this through our replacement of human relations with saying, yeah, give me that probe, I'll stick it right wherever you want me to stick it. And we voluntarily do all this. There is actually a mechanism in nature that can take all of this out of phase chaos and bring it sharply back into focus for us. And this mechanism is built into nature. It's just that we've abandoned it. And it can help clarify for us what is actually so in the messages that we receive, because we will have some type of a baseline in which to measure against all of the things that are happening. And it will also actually guide us, this natural mechanism that we still have access to if we're willing. It will also shift our attention from the sort of artificial stimulus to the real place of commonality that is called truth. Because in general, truth means that what is so for me is also so for another person in some form or another, and that if we, two people or a number of people, act from that place, we are all witnesses to the fact that this is so, that there is an outcome that is sensed by all. Now that's precisely the aspect of the mechanism in nature that we're no longer using. Truth is the alignment with the natural system, allowing the natural system of connection to speak through people. It's always been like that. Everything we've ever experienced and built up until the time that we had these current insights into how to manipulate the surface level of that fact, that law of nature, that's always how it's happened. Now what we need to do is to compare the shallow goals and the shallow aspects of the mechanism to the depth aspect of this mechanism. But it costs us something in order to do it. We have to pull ourselves away from the dependence on the definition of truth from that shallow level that comes from this. In order to measure what's going on there, we have to have a system of human relations between us, between you, and even a small number of people. And the purpose of that connection is only the quality of connection. You connect with, say, a circle of 5 people, 10 people. Maybe 10's too much to start with. But you have a small group, say, of friends, and the only reason that you are connecting with them is to see what is happening in the channels of connection. It's not necessarily about discussion. It doesn't matter what you say. What really, truly does matter is why you're connecting. Because the imperative to connect for connection's sake is what reveals that common field that is experienced by all, that we can all say we are witnesses of the truth. And we need that human configuration in order to, and it's much more powerful, by the way, than any of the artificial stimuli. It blows it out of the water because it goes down to the essential problem on its deepest level, which is that we have abandoned that connection, that we're broken at the place where the common truth can live. We have removed that place where commonality informs us with a collective intelligence. It's not new technology. This is not a new discovery. This is just the difference now is that we understand we have something dark that's not working that we can compare this quality to. With the internet and with cell phones, the reason for connection is determined by the intentions behind those impulses that are being fed into it. They are not the impulses of the law of nature itself. The impulses that are being fed into the collective matrix now are ones that have to do with particular agendas. They're coming from ignorance. They're coming from very limited perception. They are antithetical to the very nature of that complete connection. They're making us ill. They're poisoning us. Not because people are bad, but because we are ignorant of the total interconnected nature of the system and how deep and how truly spiritual and profound these types of relationships are. We need to clean up those pipes of connection and get our intelligence from nature and not from the ego of the people who are manipulating that shallow level of the system. The antidote is to go back to the more powerful, natural interrelation of people, even on a small level. In order to work against this changing of our reality, the manipulation of our perception of reality, we need to go to the much more powerful force inside of the connective channels between people. It doesn't come at no cost. We have to make this type of a connection, even between a small number of people, you and 4 friends. We have to make that more important than what we're doing now with these phones. And the way that we do that is simply by connecting with others only for the purpose of connecting, to find that commonality in which we are witnesses of the same sensations. It doesn't even matter what we say. What matters is that we only care about making certain that the connection is there between friends, that it happens on the human level, that we are trying to feel the other person, that whatever problems or issues that we're looking at, we are simply resolving it through overcoming the differences between this small number of people. Now, you say, well, come on. I mean, that takes time. That's where am I going to find other people who can do that? There's no other way out of this. There is no other thing that we can do that won't bring us into this illusionary reality that's being formed for us. We're supposed to be consciously engaged in managing the system of nature from the human cognitive level. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be taking care of the entire system. We're supposed to be the head, not your head, not my head, but that intelligence, the caretakers of the natural system only happens between us. If you're not willing to take the step to be related to other people in this way, you can expect this decline to continue and to continue, because the intelligence, the answers to everything, and the shared true reality only happens between people who are connecting in order to make sure that the system is whole. This is such a simple mechanism. I've made it sound probably a lot more complicated than it actually is. if you have that to any degree that you have it, it will end up being a lot more powerful than the intentions that we're receiving, the manipulations that we're receiving through the shallow level of our connection. It'll counterbalance the entire thing. It will give you a sense of what's so and what isn't so, because you will feel how things are naturally constructed, and so will everybody else in this small circle. There is no alternative to this. This is what our life is. If we abandon our life, then we can expect the weirdness and the chaos that we are experiencing. If we take the other step, because of its great power, it balances out all of these other things, and it will also inspire people to put the right will understand what the correct inputs into this instantaneous connection need to be. Think about it. And more than think about it, why not get a few friends together and try to connect just for connection's sake? Try to figure out what that means. What does it mean to you? What does that mean to your friend and the next friend and the next friend in this circle? Make it about what is connection about. We're at a place where it is really connect or perish. Live in a complete illusion without our hands on the controls of our own lives. That is like you're driving a car without automatic assist. You're just driving the car without doing anything, and we're expecting it not to crash. It might seem like too much trouble. It might be embarrassing for you to go and ask some friends to get together and do this. Why do you think we have so much resistance to this kind of thing? That's where the problem is.